What's up, everybody? We're back, mic'd up, team recap. I hope you guys, we're day 55, 68 of quarantine. Let's start with the wash your hands Washington Redskins. How you doing, Mike?
Man, I'm doing all right. So, just to give the people a little insight, we might have recorded these yesterday and they turned out kind of crappy. So, here we are back at it again today, trying to wash our hands of these Washington Redskins once again. So, with that being said, let's hop right into it. So, first off, we got the draft class, Mike. What did you think of the Redskins draft class?
Not what they needed. Obviously, Chase Young, pretty undisputed best player in the draft, but it doesn't actually make sense for the team, and that's really for value. It might be the only pick that they actually landed after that with Antonio Gibson, Charles Golden, and beyond. They weren't great value. They were kind of reaches, and not a fan of this class.
Yeah, I know, like, to me, the thing is that Chase Young is by far the best player in the draft, but when you look at their roster, they the one position that they didn't really need was defensive end. So of course he's an upgrade. He'd be an upgrade on any team in the NFL, but he's less so of an upgrade on the Redskins opposed to all these other teams. I think optimally they maybe should have tried trading back and filling multiple holes because as we get into their depth chart here, like they do still need a bunch of pieces kind of on both sides of the ball. So I love the player, and I think that he is going to be a super dynamic pass rusher for them. Probably a gold jacket guy, honestly. But I don't know how much he helps them necessarily in the short term, or let's say the next 3 years. I think from there on, once you get more pieces around him, then maybe we could see them elevate into a true contender. But I don't think that Chase Young is like going to be what Joe Burrow is to Cincinnati, if that makes sense. Um, in terms of their other picks, I I think the problem from our perspective with like Antonio Gibson or Antonio Golden Gandy or Gandy Golden, excuse me, is that we don't have access to all the interviews and stuff, and obviously there were no pro days. And being from small schools, there we don't have necessarily access to all like the entire library of film, and plus we haven't seen them playing against the best competition, so it's kind of difficult for us to really get great evaluations on these guys. But even like with what we have seen, I don't know if that's really what the Redskins needed. And then with the Sadiq Charles pick, obviously we do have enough film on him. He went to LSU, but I don't think that that's your answer long term to replace Trent Williams. So I mean, other than that, like, did you have anything else with the class or not really?
No, and I think also, I guess something to be said. Obviously, they weren't great value picks, but I think in the round you picked him, I don't think that was the best position for you guys for the team to address. Uh, Antonio Gibson, running back slash wide receiver, he has a lot of running back film. It's probably one of your better spots on the offensive side of the ball. Uh, you don't really have great spots anywhere, but you had two solid players there in Darius Geis and AP. So to address that with your first pick after Chase Young didn't make a whole lot of sense, and you're definitely not getting a starting caliber left tackle in the fourth round. So not a fan.
Yeah, not a fan. From there, we go into the projected offensive depth charts. Positions out of there, starting 11, do you find hope in and optimism in that these guys could potentially have a breakout season?
Yeah, I think one bright spot is the players that you feel confident in are also young players, either on their rookie contract or on their second, maybe the first year of their second in Brandon Scherf. So uh, I like that. They're a young team. Obviously, they don't have a whole lot of experience on this side of the ball, at least, and there's some potential. For sure, there's potential. This is definitely not a competing team next year, and probably not the year after that. They're in a tough division, and this definitely is not the roster you need to be putting out to be competitive.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think there is definitely promise though with like Dwayne Haskins. I think Terry McLaurin, he might not be a number one receiver, but if you pair him with if you kind of pair him with another guy who's equally talented, maybe that is Antonio Gandy Golden. I think that they can be a formidable duo. I think, like you said, Scherf and Moses across the offensive line. Like I think they do have a couple pieces here and there, but ultimately, if you want to become a contending team, you really have to shore up really the rest of that offensive line. You do have to get more weapons because there are question marks with Darius Geis. I think there's huge question marks with Cornelius Lucas and what you're going to do at left tackle to replace Trent Williams, and really kind of everywhere else too. Like I don't think Trey Quinn's your long-term slot receiver. I don't think you have long-term solutions at left guard and center. So I don't know, man. I don't see it. But one thing we were kind of talking about is the Redskins had 35 million in cap space. So what free agents do you think could potentially fit on this team to maybe mentor these young guys or just help protect Dwayne Haskins in the short term?
Yeah, I think one that sticks out is Jason Peters. They need to keep Haskins upright and healthy. And right now, this left side of this offensive line isn't cutting it. Is it the timeline with Jason Peters? Obviously, I think he's mid to even late 30. I don't know what you call it, 36. I'd say mid 30s.
Yeah, we'll say mid.
It doesn't fit with the timeline of this team, but it'll at least keep Dwayne Haskins upright and hopefully healthy. That's a big one I see there. Maybe just a kind of a Swiss Army knife player that could definitely fit in this team and maybe teach some young weapons would be someone like Delaney Walker. I think it's a nice Swiss Army knife, gives Haskins some capability, gives Geis an extra blocker if needed. It kind of could just do a little bit of everything for him.
No, I completely agree. I think some other good names are like Cordy Glenn at left tackle. He's a little bit younger, so maybe if you think Sadiq is a long-term project, maybe he's not going to be ready for 2 to 3 years. Maybe you'd go with a Cordy Glenn who can kind of hold down that left side of the line and really guard Dwayne Haskins' backside. I think at running back, maybe Devonta Freeman would be somebody who could add an extra dynamic to the offense because at the end of the day, we really don't know if Darius Geis is going to be able to stay healthy, and I don't really think you can expect much out of AP at this point. But other than that, are you ready to move on to the defensive side of the ball?
Yes, please.
Yes, please. So this is really the bright spot of the team. Obviously, it's their front four. So kind of talk about this front four real quick, Mike. What is there anything not to like here?
No, it's good and it's young. I think both those things. Every player I know, you just go each one's a first round draft pick, starting with Jonathan Allen, then going into Deron Payne, Sweat to Young. They have made it an emphasis to bolster this defensive line, and they've done a great job. It just sucks they have basically neglected every other position group on this team other than quarterback. They can get pressure on the quarterback, and they've made that an emphasis here. Even the two interiors are pretty good pass rushing interior defensive linemen. So the front four is solid to say the least.
And we talk about how a good front four that can rush the passer is potentially the best thing that can cover up and hide your kind of deficiencies in the secondary. I think that this is the perfect front four that can kind of help you not just give it up to Carson Wentz every week or Dak Prescott every week, because I don't think that Fabian Moreau and Kendall Fuller are necessarily long-term solutions. So you're going to have to eventually get young guys in there. And I think that Chase Young, Montez Sweat, those kind of guys can really ease that transition. Other than that, I do think you're going to have to fill some holes at like linebacker, for instance. Ryan Kerrigan's not going to be there forever. Thomas Davis is kind of just a veteran presence right now. I'm not really sure how much he has to offer. And then Cole Holcomb, I actually don't know much about. I know he was a fifth-round pick last year, and he actually had over 100 tackles. But I feel like that was more so just based on the opportunity that he had opposed to his talent. So that's really all I have to say about the defensive depth chart. I really do think that this is the identity of the team. It's going to be the rush the passer, and I think there is a lot of promise in that. But I don't know if that promise is going to equate to wins. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I didn't bring this up last time we recorded this, so I'll bring it up this time. An interesting free agent on the younger side might be able to – it'd be interesting to see him fit with this front seven would be someone like Darren Lee. I think getting a speedy linebacker, he can come in. He doesn't take up much cap. I think seeing what he could do behind a defensive line like this might be able to kind of bring out some of that unmet potential that he has. I don't think we've seen much from him, and I think maybe putting him behind a defensive line like this might see some opportunity there.
Yeah, no, and between two super dynamic players like Jonathan Allen and Jerron Payne, that you have to double team both of them on a lot of occasions, you're you would really have a lot of opportunities to make plays, especially in the run game at linebacker. And while Thomas Davis can maybe do that for a season, I do think a guy like Darren Lee could definitely fill that role, being the freak athlete that he is. So with that being said, let's get into the schedule for this upcoming season. So, Mike, what is like one or two games that really stand out to you for the Redskins next year? I know there's not very many winnable ones, but if there are, what do you think they are?
I think if they're going to swing a game, I think one of them is going to be against the Giants. I think that's one. Probably at home late in the year. Not sure they have much to play with. Maybe at that point it's just pride, but that could be a game they could swing. Uh, After that, there's not too much. They're going to be the underdog probably in every game they play this year. They might be able to swing the Bengals. They catch them early enough in the season that it's a lot of young pieces that still might need some coaching, and also um, a new quarterback. So see how he handles his rookie season there. I think those are the two games, probably the most winnable, but they are going to be the underdog in every one of these games, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I don't think it's an 0-16 team. That's for sure. But I completely agree that I don't think that they are going to be favored even against some teams like the Lions or Cardinals. I think that those teams who were picking top 10 have kind of distanced themselves, whereas the Redskins, outside of that Chase Young pick, I really don't know how much they've done in free agency or the draft to kind of close that gap. I actually think the gap has widened, if anything. And I really wouldn't be surprised if they have the number one pick next year.
I'd agree. I way too far in advance, but something great for them though. Some of the way too early top players in next year's draft are quarterback, which if Haskins does not pan out, which he probably won't with this offense of help he has this year. You could be in the Trevor Lawrence lottery, and if not, if his problem is not having weapons, there's actually another plethora of wide receivers coming in this next draft with Justin Ross, Jamar Chase, and a pair of them from Alabama.
Yeah, it's really a shame for Haskins if you think about it. It's kind of reminiscent to Josh Rosen in Arizona, where you're not giving him the best chance to succeed because you're surrounding him with really the bare minimum. You're not giving him enough weapons or enough help in terms of blocking or just guys who are going to catch the ball and make plays. They really have nothing on the offensive side of the ball that can help Dwayne reach his full potential right now. I get McLaurin has some potential, but in terms of like right now, at least if you talk about Joe Burrow, for example, okay, he has Tyler Boyd, he has John Ross, he has AJ Green, he has a decent offensive line. I can't say the same about Haskins. I'm worried that if he has another year where he kind of looks a little bit wishy-washy, I'm worried that the public's going to kind of turn on him like they did Rosen, and I don't really think that that's fair. So I wouldn't be shocked if Haskins doesn't have a great season. I'm actually kind of expecting him to not have a great season. But then I wouldn't be shocked if they do try to swing for like a Trevor Lawrence, and I don't really know if that's necessary. No, I mean I'm hoping for the Redskins, the sake of their fans, that they can turn this around. But I really don't think that it's going to be like a 1 to 2 year rebuild. They could definitely make it a 1 to 2 year rebuild. You look at kind of like what the Broncos have done, where they swung AJ Boye and Jarrell Casey and kind of added some good, solid veterans with all their cap space to bolster that core. I do think that the Redskins definitely have the potential to do that. They could have a really solid draft next year, add some really good, maybe guys who are slightly past their prime, but veterans like the caliber of Casey and Boye. And I do think you could maybe compete in 2 or 3 years. But I definitely don't think that for the 2020-2021 season that they're going to be competitors. So other than that, that's about all we got.
For sure. We mic'd in. Now we're micing out.